Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're making a fundamental shift. We're moving away from just passively reading about AI, and we're going to start actively building your own highly effective, personalized AI toolkit. If you've ever felt like you're literally wrestling with a chatbot just to get a usable answer, well, that ends right now. So take this classic example. Write me an email to my team about a project delay. Look, we've all started with a deliberately weak, one-line prompt exactly like this, right? You type it in, hit enter, cross your fingers, and basically hope the AI has suddenly developed telepathy to understand the exact nuances of your workplace. And almost every single time, what happens? You get this generic AI corporate filler. It invents a fictional project, names some generic team, and stuffs the email with all this hedge-laden language and made-up excuses. It sounds like a robot lawyer wrote it. It makes everyone's eyes glaze over, and frankly, it's practically useless for your actual job. So today, we're embarking on a real transformation journey. In this explainer, we're covering the move from vague to powerful, the 6-element framework, few-shot and chain-of-thought techniques, how to rescue a stuck conversation, mastering your real task, and finally, building your personal prompt library. Let's dive in. First up, the 6-element prompt framework. We are upgrading that terrible one-line request. To escape that robotic filler, your prompt absolutely needs structure. So first off, you gotta specify the context, who you are, who the team is, why there's a delay. Second, define the role or the exact voice you want. Next is the task, and use a really specific verb here, like draft. Then give it constraints, like a strict word count. Specify the format, maybe a single body paragraph. And finally, if you can, provide an example of a previous email you've actually written. This is crucial. Notice the stark contrast here. We've got our vague round A baseline on one side and our properly specified round B rewrite using the framework elements on the other. When you put these side by side, the jump in output quality is instantly obvious. By defining the exact boundaries, you completely eliminate the guesswork that leads to all that corporate fluff. Moving on to few-shot and chain-of-thought techniques. This is all about classifying data and solving complex logic. Okay, so when you're dealing with tedious, repetitive tasks, like, say, sorting hundreds of customer support messages, doing it one by one is just agonizing. But getting an AI to categorize them consistently, that requires a technique called few-shot prompting. This simply means giving the AI a real demonstration of each label. So one clearly positive message, one negative, and one mixed, right in your prompt before you ask it to sort your actual data. And when you run an experiment and log your observations, comparing a vague one-line prompt to a specified prompt with 0 examples, and then finally to a few-shot prompt with 3 chosen examples, you realize exactly why few-shot wins. It absolutely dominates when handling those annoying, ambiguous edge cases, and it literally forces the AI to maintain strict format consistency across dozens of items. But wait, what about math and complex logic? For multi-step reasoning problems, like figuring out if 28 work colleagues can fit into a wedding venue that holds 80 guests, minus 24 family members, 35 friends, and a 5-seat buffer, yeah, you need a totally different tool. You need chain-of-thought prompting. This is where you explicitly instruct the AI to think step by step, lay out your reasoning, then give the final answer. This technique really shows us the evolution of these models. On one hand, you can force regular AI model to show its work by typing out that chain-of-thought instruction. But on the other hand, dedicated reasoning models like DeepSeek R1 actually do this natively. When you compare them, the dedicated reasoning model gives you a much more trustworthy, thorough, and self-correcting logic trace for those truly complex, brain-bending problems. Next up, rescuing a stuck conversation, or knowing when to stop grinding. Look, even with all these advanced techniques, you're eventually going to get an output that just isn't right. You ask for a fix, it shifts around a bit, but it's still wrong. You're faced with a classic dilemma. Do you keep offering vague feedback like, make it punchier, or is it time to just wipe the slate clean and restart completely? Iterate or restart? To figure this out, test 2 paths against each other. Path A is surgical feedback, where you give highly specific cuts and paragraph references inside that stuck chat. Path B is a total restart, taking what you've learned to write a massive, strong first prompt in a brand new window. Testing these side by side teaches you your own personal signals for when a chat is irreparably confused. And trust me, that saves you from wasting 20 maddening minutes arguing with an algorithm. All right, mastering your real task? Let's apply the full toolkit end to end.
Let's see how all this builds into an actual workflow where we finally take the training wheels off. I want you to pick a real task you need to finish this week. Step 1, define the task and precisely what a good output looks like. Step 2, choose your techniques from the toolkit we just covered. Step 3, write that strongest first prompt using the 6-element framework. Step 4, deliberately iterate using surgical feedback. And Step 5, document the exact journey. How many iterations did it actually take?
Which brings us to your personal prompt library. This is the reward for all your hard work. Because running all these exercises, it's kind of useless without synthesis. Your goal here is to document 3 reusable templates based on the actual tasks you do most frequently, like drafting emails, summarizing, or classifying. You write out the prompt structure and use bracketed placeholders for the specific details. By doing this, you're building a personal library that is worth infinitely more than any generic marketing template you'll find online, mostly because it's built entirely from your own evidence. And to truly complete this library, you've got to record your personal calibration data. What's your new default opening structure? What are your top 3 reflexes for giving surgical feedback? What are your exact criteria for abandoning a chat and restarting? And hey, what surprised you the most during this testing? Writing all this down ensures you don't just revert back to your old habit of typing one-line requests by next Tuesday. Having this solid foundation means you're no longer guessing why an output fails. You know exactly how to talk to these models. And that perfectly prepares you for the next phase, which is matching advanced, specialized tools like Notebook LM, Claude Projects, DeepSeek, and Gemini to very specific high-level workflows. You see, you really can't utilize power user features if you don't first know how to craft a solid prompt. Just look at how far we've come from that vague, hopeful one-line prompt we started with. You now have a framework, you understand few-shot and chain of thought, and you know how to iterate surgically. So I want to leave you with this question to think about the moment this explainer ends. Which of these newly mastered techniques are you going to pull from your personal library to permanently change the way you work today?